It is 11:58 p.m. on April 15th, tax day. Somewhere in the United States, there is a person with wide eyes, hair standing on end, surrounded by crumpled receipts, 3 cups of cold coffee, and a laptop with 11 open tabs. At least 4 are from TurboTax, 2 are from Google searching how to file taxes fast, and 1, for some inexplicable reason, is a carrot cake recipe. TurboTax has crashed for the second time. The American income tax deadline is in 2 minutes, and the heart is beating as if the IRS were gonna knock on the door in person. If this sounds familiar, this video was made exactly for you. Every year, millions of Americans treat tax day, the final deadline to file income taxes in the United States, as if it were a surprise, as if the calendar had conspired, as if no one could have predicted that after April 14th would come the 15th, with the IRS patiently waiting on the other side. In 2023 alone, more than a third of all taxpayers filed in the final weeks before tax day. A considerable portion left it to the last few hours, and a select, brave group, truly committed to adrenaline, waited until the very last minutes. This behavior is no accident. It is not laziness. There is a real, documented, and curiously comical psychological reason for all of this. The human brain is an extraordinary machine. It learns languages, composes symphonies, sends photos to Mars, and even so, when it sees an IRS form, it collectively decides that it can wait. This phenomenon has a name: hyperbolic discounting. It is the universal human tendency to value immediate relief much more than future benefits. In other words, not opening that document folder today feels more valuable psychologically than having everything finished in March before tax day. It is the same brain that found time to reorganize the sock drawer by color, that watched 2 seasons of a show it did not even like, that learned how to make sourdough bread, but never put the medical receipts into a folder. This brain looks at the calendar in February, sees the April deadline, and thinks, 2 months. I have plenty of time. Then March passes, quickly, the way March always does, and then it is tax day. The most fascinating part is that tax day is not a logistical surprise. It does not change its date. Every year, right on April 15, the IRS is there, waiting, with that silent energy of someone who knows you will arrive at the very last second anyway. Think of the tax day taxpayer as an action movie character. He is not late. He is strategically waiting for the right moment. While others filed in February like predictable people, this one waited. He calculated. He let the suspense build. In this narrative, the IRS is the perfect villain. Bureaucratic, with letters written in language designed to make any citizen feel guilty about something they cannot even name. Who has never opened an IRS letter and felt that stab in the stomach? Even without having done anything wrong, this is called anticipatory anxiety. Stress caused not by the event itself, but by the expectation of it. In the case of American income taxes, just thinking about opening the filing software is enough for the brain to declare an emergency and suggest that maybe folding that pile of clothes first would be better. The result of this anxiety has a tradition that sums everything up with almost poetic perfection. The lines at post offices on tax day night, people holding envelopes, wearing pajamas, some still carrying coffee in the other hand, in a scene that repeats every year with the consistency of Thanksgiving, except without the turkey, without the family, and with much more cold sweat. But there is a group that faces tax day in a completely different way. No anxiety, no cold sweat, with an almost festive energy, because this group is going to receive a tax refund, the money back from the government, the prize. And here, one of the most delightful misconceptions in American financial psychology. This cashback is not a gift. It is not a bonus. It literally, the taxpayer's own money, which was withheld throughout the year, kept in the Treasury's vaults, earning absolutely nothing, and is now being returned as if it were a favor. The person essentially made an interest-free loan to the federal government and is happy about it. Economist Richard Thaler calls this mental accounting. The brain's tendency to treat the same money in completely different ways depending on how it arrives. A $2,000 refund is immediately classified as extra money, vacation money. The same $2,000 arriving through a salary would become the electric bill and the car installment. Same value, completely different destinations. The result is, let's say, creative. It is the 75-inch TV that does not fit on the wall but fit on the card. It is that friend who every year swears they will put the refund in savings, and every year shows up in May with something that floats and has a motor. And there is a provocation worth reflecting on. Do some of the people with a refund to receive procrastinate on tax day precisely because of this? Not out of fear, but for the unconscious pleasure of delaying the good news, like leaving the best piece of the meal for last. In the end, the last day taxpayer is not a chaotic or irresponsible being. They are a human being. Hyperbolic discounting explains the procrastination. Anticipatory anxiety explains the fear of the IRS envelope. Mental accounting explains the irrational euphoria over the tax refund. And loss aversion explains why thinking about paying taxes hurts more than thinking about getting money back. It is not weakness, it is neuroscience. And the most comical part of all this, now that all this psychology has been laid bare, now that the mechanism is exposed, the obvious question is, are you going to file before tax day next year? Probably not. And that is okay, because next April at 11:58 p.m., somewhere in the United States, there will be someone with a crashed turbotax, 4 cups of cold coffee on the table, and an open tab with a carrot cake recipe, being part of an American tradition as old and profoundly human as any other. If this video made sense and gave you that laugh of recognition, share it with that friend you know has not filed yet. They need to know that it is their brain's fault, not theirs.